Hi, I want to briefly discuss public unions. We all know what's going on in Wisconsin. There's an issue of the governor and the elected Republicans want to reduce and pretty much eliminate collective bargaining for the public union employees. But let's look at what happens with the public unions. When we have a private union, which is a private company, and we have a union, they negotiate at arm's length. The company owner has his own interest at stake, and that's to give the least amount of benefits and the least amount of salary, with the same time trying to maximize his profit. So he has an incentive, so he's negotiating at arm's length. He has no reason to give the union members any more benefits than necessary or any more wages than necessary. Now, the manager or the owner of the business may and should consider employee morale. Obviously, if you're paying the union members salary or benefits way below the private sector and they can't survive, it's going to damage employee morale, and that probably would hurt your company. So a sensible manager or owner would take all these factors into consideration, but nonetheless, when they negotiate, the private sector union and the private sector business owner they negotiate at arm's length. It's a true negotiation. It's, in a sense, adversarial, truly adversarial. However, in the public sector, let's look. We got the politicians, and I'm going to hold up a little sign I made. Hope you can make it out. Here we have, let's see. I'm going to have to zoom out a little. Okay, here we have the taxpayers. That's you and me. We pay taxes. The money goes to the legislature. Here goes to the legislature, to the politicians. The politicians now want to get elected. So they want to go to the most organized group of people, and that's the unions. So what they do is they'll pay benefits and salary to the unions, public unions. So now what they're doing is, in return, they're getting political donations right here, or AKA we can call them bribes or kickbacks. So therefore, if we analyze this, the union members give their dues. Those dues go to the public unions, the political bosses, the public union bosses. The union bosses know that they can sell the vote of the union members in a block. They sell it nice and conveniently to the politicians. They give them donations. They tell the politicians, hey, legislators, we're going to give you a block of vote. We'll all vote for you. We'll get our family out to vote for you. We'll try every effort we can, all our best effort, to vote you in because you represent our interests. That's legitimate. But then we got to look at what the politicians do. The politicians are supposed to act in the best interest of the majority of those elected. I mean, those who elected them. But instead, what they do is they know that the majority is divided, and we have a united minority, which is the public unions. They vote in a block. The majority is a divided majority. They don't really know what's going on. They don't know the deals that are being cut. The politicians are getting the bribes from the unions. You got the legislators are getting the bribes. They're getting the vote from the public unions here. And as they get their vote, they now have to do something in favor of the public unions. Now what they turn around and they give them lucrative benefits. So you say, okay, in return for public donations, let's see, down here, AKA bribes or kickbacks, the legislature now gives lucrative benefits to the union members. Who pays for it? Me and you, the taxpayers. So we got a deal, we got a kickback scheme. This is really a kickback scheme going on in legislators around the country. This is why the public unions have too much power now, because of collective bargaining and because they vote in a block and they pretty much buy the vote. I mean, they take the contributions from the union dues, they take that money, they funnel it to the legislators. The legislators need the money to run. The legislators turn around and they give away the house. Give away the house, so to speak, here, the benefits and salary and pensions. That's the pension time bomb ready to go off at any time. America and many states, many municipalities around the country are pretty much on the verge of bankruptcy. They're going to go bankrupt at any time. That's the problem. So now, as I hold this up, this is why we need to rein in the public unions. Public unions hold us captive. It's not like if we're buying a car and we say, look, they're charging too much for a car, we don't have to buy a car. We can buy a used car, we can buy a different brand car, but the public unions now, let's go back to a private union. A private union, if the private union is getting too high of a salary, obviously, or high excessive benefits, that cost will be forced to be passed on to the consumer, you and me, when you buy a car. If it was too excessive, the cost, you simply wouldn't buy a car. We wouldn't buy that brand of car. So if General Motors, as an example, they were getting $80 an hour in benefits and other things, if they're getting $80 an hour and the cars are more pricey than, say, a Toyota, and a Toyota is a better quality car, where will we go? We're going to buy a Toyota. So we're not captive. We have options. We have alternatives. We can go somewhere else. But when we get things or services produced or done by the public sector employees, we're held captive. There's nothing we can do. If you want to go past a bridge, you have to go past the Bridge and Tunnel Authority. You have no choice. So whatever their charge is, you have to pay it. If it's excessive, it doesn't matter. You have to pay it. There's no way around it. If we look now and we look at public works employees, if they're overpaid, they're filling potholes, and they're not really working an 8-hour day. They work 6 hours, 5 hours, maybe sanitation. They work 4 hours a day. In some of these special districts, they're milking the system because they're not truly working a full day. And then in return, we have the commissioners. Commissioners say, well, you don't have to work a full day. Don't worry about it. Just vote for me. When the elections come up in the special districts, just vote for me. That's all I care about. So in return, they give them lax, very little work to do. They don't work a full day. They take it easy. They don't work full speed. And in return, the commissioners simply expect these employees, in return, or you want to call it a payoff or a kickback, in return, they expect a vote. They may expect some contributions. Therefore, these commissioners continually get in, and that's the problem we have. There's not a true arm's length negotiation in any of these contracts. So I would propose that union contracts, after they're proposed, that the taxpayers must have an opportunity to vote the contract up or vote it down. That's what you need to do. We need to bring in the real interested parties. Those are the taxpayers, you and me. Those are the people who really pay the bill. And we cannot forget that these people are civil servants. And civil servants make more money than their master, if you want to call him that, servant master, because it's civil servant, then there's a problem. When the civil service employee makes more than the master, who works in the private sector, then it's unfair. Then we no longer have pay parity. And that's what we need to aim for. The public sector should be paid fairly and compensated fairly, but their pay should not exceed a comparable job in the private sector. And if it does, we need to adjust or realign the pay of the public sector so it's in line with the private sector. And that's pretty much it. And I'd appreciate anybody's comments on these matters, because these are matters that are going to have a domino effect across the country. It's going to break out in every state in the union, and maybe even a number of countries all over the world. So I'd appreciate your comments. Thank you, and take care.